I would like to welcome everyone to our City Commission meeting. In the first order of business, we're all going to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a consent agenda. I'm going to read just a couple of these items concerning the land bank. We're going to consider a resolution and a deed to transfer 118 South Kansas Avenue from the city to the Newton Land Bank. And then we're going to consider a resolution and a deed to transfer 324 East 11th from the city to the Newton Land Bank. So do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Then on our regular agenda, item number 4, we're going to receive the 2022 year-end financial report from Donna.
Okay. Are you going to run it for me?
Wrong mouse. Sorry.
Too many mice.
Too many mice. So.
This is our 2022 year in review. These are unaudited. Most all the journal entries have been done. The auditors may do a few. First slide just kind of shows you overall what our revenues were this year. I'm going to say last year is 21 and this year's 22. I'm going to be in 22 for a little bit. We brought in $50,220,939. You can see of that, taxes were 35%. Golf course was 3%, wastewater was 15%. It just kind of helps you understand where it all comes from. The next slide is our expenditures citywide. And you can see salaries and benefits are the big one, but added together, that's only 39%, which is very good since we are a services organization. Contractual services were 14%, debt service is 15%, just kind of gives you an idea of where all the money goes. And you can see that our reserves fell by $2,167,000 in 22. The next slide is getting us into the general fund. And this just breaks down where our revenue comes from. Taxes are about 71% of our revenue in the general fund. Charges for services are about 10%. License and permits are 2%. You can see where it all comes from there. Of that 71% for tax revenues, property tax came in about where we were expecting it. We were about $26,000 under budget, which means that our delinquencies came in very low, which is very good. Sales tax came in. We have about $400,000 over budget for our original sales tax, and our special sales tax came in about $345,000 over budget, which really helped us. Franchise tax came in about $134,000 over budget. Our other revenues were up. License and permits came in at $139,000 over. These are building permits, building licenses. Charges for services, this is where our engineering services came in at. They were $142,000 over budget. And then I'll talk a little bit about, on the next slide, is really nice. Isn't that a pretty chart? You can see back in 2007, the high back there, we made $469,000 in interest. And then we got down to where we were doing about $7,000 or $8,000 a year. Then it went back up, and in 2019, we hit the high of $591,000. And then all of a sudden, we went down. In 21, we made $4,000. But this year, we made $385,000. So we're back on track, but
What did we budget for this year?
we budgeted $250, I think.
Thank you.
So you can see how fast it comes and goes. So we just kind of live in the moment with interest.
We keep all of our idle funds in local banks, or is there some type of a pool?
There's a pool,
A pool.
municipal investment pool with the state of Kansas. We also have some in trust here. You can see our general fund expenditures, and what each one, how much each one takes part in the general fund. Fire is about 30%, police about 25%. So together, those are over half of the general fund is your public safety. We have, street is about 11%, engineering is 2%, administrative is 15%, but that really is just due to the fact that the transfer of sales tax to EcoDevo goes through admin, and also the equipment reserves for golf course, and the golf course debt, and the Meridian Centers, MER, all that goes through admin. So it makes them look like they have a lot more than they, or pay out a lot more than they do. The next one is our income statement. And you can see that we did real well over budget and revenue by 103%. And we stayed under budget. If you remember in '21, we were just like $25,000 over our budget. And I was really sweating it. But this year we're $324,000 under budget. So that's very good. We used to run about 93%. But since the pandemic has ramped everything up, we're about 98% now. We did lose $1,100,000 in the general fund. I had predicted that we would go down to 11% for our balance reserve, but we just went to 16% due to that good income that came in this year. So that helped us a lot. Some of the departments that went over, just a little bit in community development. I think that was because the health insurance I had to the wrong people, so it just looked a little funky there. IT went over for, we had our cyber insurance, which you remember was like $30,000 more than we expected. Tech services, software, all that's just going high as we're trying to work on cyber attacks and stuff like that. Not attacks, but how we're trying to protect ourselves from them. And then when we also sent more sales tax to EcoDevo, and that wasn't in the budget, so that made it look like it went over. So you can see our balance, it did drop, but we are still a little bit above our reserve at $3,000,004. Next is wastewater revenue. And, this is,
Did you want that one?
go ahead. This is wastewater revenue. And I kind of changed, we had one entry that didn't get in for unbilled sales. We have to wait till, we are like a month or two behind in arrears in billing out for water and sewer. So we have to wait till February before I can do my final entries. And one of them didn't get done, so I just wanted to show you what we actually brought in revenue, so it wasn't different. We only had about $20,000 difference than we did last year for our wastewater revenue. And then our plant upgrade fee, it went down about $20,000 as well compared to last year. It's $1,836,000, and that's pretty steady. Our income statement shows that we had revenues of 97% of our budget, and we spent 93% of our budget. We did also lose in the wastewater fund $1.1 million. So we have an unencumbered cash balance of $862,000, which we haven't had that low in a long time. But we're still above our policy, which states 5%, so we're at 10. But 5 is really too low for these utilities when you have to pay for some of the projects we have to, or the pieces of equipment. So you can see the fund balance. We're going down. We're always around $2 million the last several years, when we are getting down to $862,000. Water revenue had the same unbilled sales that I've added back in. So we're about $100,000 more than we were last year. Only about $40,000 of that is water sales. We have about $27,000 that are tap fees and new meters going in. So this energy that we have is helping all the way around. The income statement shows that we brought in a little more than our revenue than we projected, and we spent 88% of our budget in water. We lost $500,000 in water, so we have a balance of $1,000,003 at this time. One of the transfers that helped us not spend so much is we had projected $300,000 for the new debt for that loan for that tank. That's not done. So we didn't pay any of that debt, so it just shows less in expenditures. And the fund balance, you can see how it went down as well. Sanitation also had the unbilled fees, so we are about 20,000 more than we were in '21. On the income statement, you can see we had 101% of our budget come in and spend about 95,000, or 95% of our budget. And so with that extra 20 of unbilled sales, we only lost about $23,000 in sanitation. And the balance of that one is staying right where it should be. Airport fuel sales. If you remember, this is one of the funds that we estimated and amended the budget. Well, we didn't do a good enough job because we still went over budget by $50-some thousand. So we almost hit it, but it was coming in, the expenses were going up, were high, and people were purchasing it. So Brian had to keep buying it, so we did go over budget. So you'll see that in the audit report that we went over budget in this and the golf course as well, which we tried to, but it was just an estimate of what we could do. We should have ramped it up higher because we did have the income come in higher as well. But you can see our fuel sales are at $913,000. In '21, they were $667,000. You can see how much revenue we brought in. Leases also went up about $20,000, so they're steadily going up with those new leases that were done by Chris and Brian. The income statement shows that we had 113% of our revenue, and we did go over budget by $58,000, and it was all in fuel. Our fuel expenses were $390,000 over our original budget. And our income, you'll see that in the revenue up there, other income, we did have that sale of Hangar W this year for $68,000, and we also had a COVID grant of $59,000 for operations, so that helped. And you can see that the airport fund balance is looking good. It hasn't been up that high for quite some time. The next one is golf revenue. You can see that it's coming in just higher each year. In '19, Course and Grounds brought in $674,000. In '22, it brought in $946,000. Same with carts. They're about double what they were in '19. '19 was $49,000 and '22 was $102,000. And the food and beverage also went up $100,000. So it is doing very well. Looking at the income statement, you can see they brought in 113% of their budget. And they went over budget by $46,000. And that was mainly in cost of goods. And their balance right now is $683,000, and this can go toward a lot of improvements. He started doing that this past year. Meridian Center, you can see that they're starting to climb up. They're not quite as good as they were in 2019. In 2019, his high for food and beverage was $225,000. In '22, it's $182,000. So he's still got a ways to go to bring that back up to what it used to do. Room service fees, they were $154 in '19, and this year they were $113. And he did lose about $22,000 this last year. But we think it just keeps going up and up. It just takes time because they went down so bad in the pandemic. And his fund balance is staying about $50,000. Now that was fast. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
Do you need them to make a motion to accept this
nice.
report? Okay, just for auditing purposes, we need to have that.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 2022 year-end financial report.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. passes. Item number 5, we're going to consider a request to close Athletic Park Circle on April 29, 2023 for the Battle of the Schools 1 Mile Fun Run. Denise?
Yes, thank you. This is a request from the rec center. They are doing the Battle of the Schools, and they were wanting to close from, I'm looking for my request here, sorry, and amongst all my other stuff. Yeah. You have it. I have to, oh, here we go. They want to close from 8:30 in the morning to 11:30 a.m. and just close Athletic Park Circle. Staff has reviewed this and would recommend approval.
Okay.
I would move we approve the street closure for this event.
No, second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Number 6, we're going to consider an ordinance to broaden the scope of the Law Enforcement Advisory Panel. Chris?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So this is the LEAP ordinance, Law Enforcement Advisory Panel, and it's seen a few changes over the last couple of years. It was originally formed in 2006, but from a request from the commission to expand the scope of what the Law Enforcement Advisory Panel does, I've provided you with a red line as a proposed response to that request, and that's in the Section 3 Purpose and Function. It talks about assisting in policy development, education specific to bias-based policing, and through the red line, we've eliminated that specificity to kind of open it up to include essentially all policing, including any allegations of bias-based policing. No time urgency on this. It's obviously a working draft as an advisory panel. I know that you still need to appoint members to the panel, but it's for your consideration in response to kind of change the purview of what the Law Enforcement Advisory Panel would do.
Does anybody want to bring forth a motion?
I will move that we approve the ordinance. Now, we need an ordinance number.
5112-23.
5112-23. I move that we accept that ordinance.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed. Item number 7, Concrete Vaults Industrial Revenue Bond Project. Chris?
Yeah, and I can cover this one as well. This is a 2011 IRB project. It was $800,000. It was for the Concrete Vaults project, which the entity was JRW Investments. Back in 2011, the city issued IRBs. While those bonds are outstanding, the city has an ownership interest in the project and then leases it to JRW. Those bonds have now been redeemed, paid in full, full compliance with the lease. So they have an option now to purchase that property and have unencumbered ownership in that property. They've provided us with notice. City staff has reviewed, assistance of bond counsel as well, and we would suggest receiving that notice from JRW Investment and then approving the resolution which authorizes the sale and conveyance. This would also, after the 10 years, end the tax abatement for that property as well through the IRB. So kind of seeing it all the way through the closeout, this resolution. I would stand for any questions you have on that.
I want to read a quick letter that he sent, Jim Ween sent me today. It says, Dear Mayor Kane, I want to thank the City Commission, County Commission, and the Board of Education for helping us with our 10-year industrial revenue bonds. We have thrived as a business since 1954 here in Newton and look forward to many more years at CVI Funeral Supply. During the past 10 years, we've grown substantially. We have added locations in Kansas City, Missouri, Amarillo, and Lubbock, Texas, now numbering at 8 locations, including Newton. We have hired many more employees here in Newton, and of course, our support staff for our branch locations are employed here in Newton. We once again thank the city and the various commissions over the years in helping us. Sincerely, Jim Weens.
I would make the motion that we receive their notice.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Item B is we're going to consider a resolution authorizing the sale and conveyance of certain property to JRW Investment LLC.
That number.
G-1304.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number G-1304.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Item 8, Planning Commission. Suzanne?
Yes, Commissioners. At the February 6th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission heard the items that are coming before you this evening, and it is a consideration of annexation and zoning for a property that is located along the north side of East 12th Street between Old Trail Road and I-135 highway. This is currently Harvey County A1, which is an ag district, and they are requesting a C2 general business district zoning. It needs to be annexed into the city. It's, yeah, they're that red triangle with the yellow dot on it. It would need to be annexed into the city, and then you need to zone it at the same time. The Planning Commission did all of this at their February 6th meeting and approved it. You would need to conduct a public hearing to do this, as I understand it. Correct, Chris?
Yeah, I think the public hearing component was covered by the Planning Commission, but it's always been the practice of the commission to provide additional notice on a number of things, including this. So I would suggest that you would open it up for any public comment if you like, if there's anyone that would like to speak to it. But the public hearing has been addressed at the Planning Commission level.
Okay. So we don't have it specifically listed as a public hearing. You have 3 items before you. 1, to receive the recommendation, 2, to consider the annexation, and then 3, to consider the rezoning. If you will notice the red area on the map there, all of the red areas, you can kind of see how things are laid out. Well, that doesn't look right, Denise.
This is the future map.
That's the future,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Okay, so this is making the assumption that you would approve the zoning, okay? Then it would be surrounded by other properties that are also commercial zoning. It's already commercial, and if you approve that, it would come in. So this is the community
This is from the comp plan.
comp plan, that this is what they are saying this property should come in as if we were to annex and bring in, and if you were looking at rezoning. Sorry, I misstated that. This property owner has requested it. This is not something that the city has went out and tried to rezone and annex. The property owner is requesting annexation and zoning for the property. The Planning Commission approved this 7-0. It was a unanimous decision.
Okay.
Now, let me restate that because I want to make sure I was clear. It is currently ag, and it's in the county. He's asking for rezoning, and it would match with the comp plan. The area to the south of it is residential zoning now, as you can see in the yellow. But he's requesting commercial, that would be the area in red, and that's what the comp plan shows. I didn't state that properly in the beginning, so I want to make sure it's clear.
I'll make a motion that we receive the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
I'll second.
Okay, there has been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is passed. I wonder if maybe we got ahead of ourselves. Maybe, does anybody want to speak to this particular matter?
You did okay because you received the information.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Well, let's move on to B. Consider an ordinance annexing the property located at 1024 East 12th Street into the city limits.
That ordinance number would be 5113-23.
I move we approve 5113-23.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item C, we're going to consider an ordinance designating the property located as 1204 East 12th as C2 General Business District.
That ordinance number would be 5114-23.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 5114-23.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed. Item number 9, Planning Commission on South Anderson. Suzanne.
Yes, Commissioner, you have another item that went before the Planning Commission on February 6th. This is a request for rezoning, and it is on the northwest corner of 24th and Anderson, southwest 24th and Anderson. The applicant has requested that the very corner property be rezoned from C1, which is a neighborhood business district zoning, to an R3, which is a multifamily dwelling district. All of the property that is surrounding this property is already zoned R3, north of Southwest 24th and west of Anderson. So the area in the golf course, around the golf course, the housing around the golf course is all zoned R3. The original developer wanted to make sure that they could do the most dense development in that area, and the current property owner is requesting to have this very corner property that was a commercial rezoned to R3 to match all of that. The Planning Commission approved this unanimously, and you are being asked to consider the rezoning as well.
I would move that we receive the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then item B, we're going to consider an ordinance amending the zoning from a C1 neighborhood business district to an R3 multifamily dwelling district for property located at South Anderson and Southwest 24th.
That ordinance number would be 5115-23.
I would move for approval of ordinance 5115-23.
A second?
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed. Now we're going to receive an update on 303 Southeast 4th from Suzanne.
Yes, Commissioners. In your packet, I provided some information to you. If you recall, last fall, we talked about this property. This is a property that was turned in to our environmental control officer regarding the condition of the property, and then it went through the full court process because the property owner did not make the improvements that were requested according to our nuisance ordinances. And in the fall of last year, the court ordered the raising of the structure at 303 Southeast 4th, and it was deemed a dangerous structure. And this was after a fire at the property. And so this was considered property owner neglect. I provided you with some information on the property. I believe you had some pictures in your packet as well. The demolition of the building was put out to bids in November of last year, and we did not receive any bids. There were no contractors that were wanting to bid on the project. We then reached out to several contractors, and we had one contractor, Gary Enterprises, that was planning to provide us with a bid. And then the business owner, he passed away in January. And when Donlinger came in to work on the library, we reached out and asked them if they would be interested in it since they would have some equipment in town. They provided a quote. I've attached that for you for demolition of the property. The price is $19,478 according to their quote. If you recall, in the engineering operating budget, we have $25,000 each year that is in the operating budget and gets transferred to a demolition project fund where those revenues sit until we need them to handle something like this. And currently, there is $45,950 in that account for demolition projects. That's prior to the 2023 funds being added to that. If you were wanting to move forward with the demolition, then we would recommend that those funds would be utilized to take care of the demolition. Remember that the cost for demolition then gets assessed to the property with the hope of payment back to the city if the property goes to tax sale at some point. However, Harvey County always makes sure that their back taxes are paid first, and then any other assessments are paid off if the funds allow. And Chris can speak to this too, as far as the legal side of the demolition. The court has ordered that we have the right to demolish it, but we do not have to, as I understand it.
Right, yeah, the city prosecutor went through the process of noticing up a hearing and asking for an order that would allow the city to do the work, in this case, the demolition, and assess the costs. But if there is a budgetary concern, the city would not be obligated by that. They could go back and, take whatever action to set it aside. So you shouldn't feel that obligation that you have to do it at any cost, obviously. It's the opportunity to do so.
Is there a time frame that it could be rebid in the future without getting in any kind of problems with rejecting this bid?
Yeah, if we were wanting, if we thought there might be other contractors that would be interested in this at this time now, then I would recommend that we wait a few months and then we put it out to bid at that time. Because we've now put somebody's price kind of out, and we don't want there to be any concern that we are, just trying to do some kind of bid rigging, which we are not. We were just trying to get somebody to take care of the problem, which we received complaints about.
Can you share what gearing was going to be, or do you not want to share that publicly?
We don't know.
Oh, we don't.
He
never got
was
it.
working on it.
Oh,
We
okay.
don't know.
All right.
I will tell you that this is higher than most of our bids have been, but everything is higher since COVID because everybody's costs for equipment and fuel and personnel is higher.
I can remember when we did some properties. Do you remember roughly what the last one was?
I would say for a property like this, we would have been running somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000, I would say, roughly,
So we're almost double.
before COVID.
I would be in favor of waiting just simply for the fact that this property is set vacant for so long. I don't know that a few more months is going to hurt us for double the cost of what we probably would expect.
Do we have any liability if something happens, somebody goes in there and gets hurt or anything?
City does not
Did
own, city does not own the property. Again, we don't have a duty to absolve every nuisance in the city, but we obviously make our best efforts given budgetary concerns. So I don't see any liability in that.
I'd be for postponing.
The court order's good for ever.
Yeah, essentially, I don't think we'd want to sit too long, but I have no problem with looking 6 months out and allowing it to be rebid. I think that's very reasonable.
I would want to wait a couple of months, just,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Would agree.
I'm okay with it.
yeah.
Is that enough guidance for you, Suzanne?
yes, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Well, how about let's do nobody signed up for the citizen forum. We want to do a 10-minute executive session, but do we want to go around the horn first and then come back? And
That'd be
we're-
great.
We're not
I
gonna
do not
take any
anticipate
action.
any action after
Okay.
the executive session. If you want to go around the horn, I think
Okay.
that's great.
Mr. Rich?
Thank you, Suzanne, for the notice to inspect my house and all my pipes. I haven't done my homework yet, but you should be getting that with your bill or a separate letter to take a look at your
Yes.
pipes and report what they are. So, looks
Yeah.
interesting.
Thank you for mentioning that, yes.
Gotta know what you have.
I was just going to say, I like how we did the year-end reports in the consent agenda and received the financial reports, so thank you for sharing that with us tonight, Donna.
No, sir.
Commissioners, I would definitely reply to Commissioner Stennett's comment about the letter that if you are a utility customer, you would be receiving a letter in the mail sometime soon if you haven't already. And it is entitled, Get the Lead Out. And this is a requirement that we need to determine the line type as far as the water line types within everybody's homes or businesses in town. And so we've sent out a letter, given some guidance to folks to please respond to us, because we have a requirement by the federal government, and if we don't get it back on a property, then we're going to need to go out and, we can help if you have questions. We've put all that information in there, so please encourage people to fill out their information and send it back to us. Also, I sent a notice out to you earlier. We have a grand opening ceremony date scheduled for the Centennial Ball Field project of Friday, April 21st at 3:30. Remember, we have a lot of parties involved with this, so it took quite a bit of scheduling. We aren't going to make everybody happy with it, but we are trying to hit a home game, trying to get you all, the school district, the PBC, the NRC,
CIA.
yeah, all the acronyms, trying to get everybody in there. It's solid right now unless I hear back from somebody, and everybody seemed to be good with it, and it's prior to a home baseball game at Centennial. The project is very near completion. We had to put a portion of it was on hold because it's waiting for a transformer. Because Evergy, as you've heard, there's been shortages on transformers just nationwide. So we're waiting to receive a transformer in so that we can get all the power hooked up for everything. So we're believing that's going to happen soon, and then we'll get all of the power that's associated with these improvements going. Turf will hopefully be grown up, and maybe it'll be a little bit warmer by April 21st. And
Can I was out there yesterday. My son, first day of Newton High School baseball practice was yesterday, and my son forgot his baseball glove on the first day. And it was the first time I've been out there since the grass has been growing. It's a wonderful facility as it stands, and it was fun to drive up and see the new improvements and all of the black and gold, and it's a huge improvement to that whole area out there. So I was just going to make a comment. You're trying to hit a home run with the ribbon cutting, so nice.
there you go.
And it was at 5:30?
3:30. And it'll be brief, but just want to do something kind of as a big grand opening right ahead of that first high school game that day.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say hats off and congrats to Jim Weens.
Yeah. I've been digging at my yard to see what size of water line I have, and I haven't found it yet, so I may need some help.
Yeah, how do you find, we don't.
The easy way is to go find your shut-off valve inside the house and start there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, yeah, we're, okay.
I've already got mine filled out, so.
Okay. We can help you. If anybody has questions, please call the number on your letter, or you're welcome to call the engineering office, and we'll try and give you some direction.
Okay.
I did have a call already from a disgruntled citizen who said, well, yeah, you know what this is going to mean? Now I'm going to have to replace all my galvanized water lines in my house and my cost, just because there might be lead in there. And anyways. Well, I would like to say that our financial report, there are a few slivers of a silver lining. No slights on words there. But so there is hope. I think the Centennial Ball Field, I agree with you, Clint. I think that's a huge improvement to that whole area. But, that's just one piece of a lot of things to come around here in Newton. So I just encourage everybody to get used to it. A lot of this is going to happen over the next several years, and it's good to be part of this community. All right, let's move on to whoever wants to read the 10-minute executive session
You want me
intro.
to?
You're the best reader.
Okay, and how long did you say, 10 minutes?
7:50 PM would be great.
7:50, okay. So I move that the city commission recess into executive session to conduct discussions with legal counsel. The justification for closing the meeting is to consult with the city attorney to discuss matters privileged under the attorney-client relationship. The time and place which the open meeting shall resume is 8:50 PM here in, 7:50 PM, the city commission chambers of City Hall.
No.
You're staying by yourself, Kathy.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.